Okay, we're going 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome. I am Jay Rosenthal. I'm the managing director and co-founder of Cultivated Media. That two people over is Jeremy Burke. He is the other co-founder and our editor-in-chief. And in the middle is Bill Morachnick. I got it right, I think. Very close. Very close.
Nailed it. First take.
From Charlotte's Web. Good to connect here today. Bill, welcome.
Thank you, Jay, and thank you, Jeremy. Very happy to be with you.
It's great to have you. I think Charlotte's Web is maybe one of the more earliest and most preeminent and pillars of an industry that sort of we write about and talk about all the time. That's a heavy lift for someone to carry.
Yeah, it's funny. I have to say, it sounds cliche. I do pinch myself sometimes that I'm in this seat because it was, I believe, the original player within the CBD space, one of the creators of the industry. And I had tracked it for a while, like we all did, anyone who's been around this industry for a while. And for the last 2 years, I've been in this seat as the CEO, and I'm like, wow, how did this happen? When you're admiring something and then all of a sudden you're part of it, is kind of surreal. So I feel extremely fortunate to be where I am.
Yeah, that's fair.
Bill, talk to us a little bit about yourself. I mean, I was just sort of trolling your LinkedIn page yesterday. You've had a range of experiences. You started your career at Kodak, Reynolds American. So talk to us about putting the pieces of the story together and how you found yourself where you are today.
Yeah. So Jeremy, it's, I get that question often. I get it from relatives, not just from media. It's been such an odd, circuitous route, and it looks like it makes more sense in hindsight than it did as I was doing it.
Everything does. Yeah.
There's no master plan. I kind of bounced a bit in a way that turned out, I think, in a good place. But I started my career right out of college with Eastman Kodak back when that was a company. I don't know how many of your viewers or listeners will still remember that.
I'm old.
Yeah. Oh, you're old, Jay, then you'll know. Back when there was film and cameras.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started my career right out of college with Kodak. Had a very odd experience where I'm a New Jersey native. Kodak's program back in the day was, if you're coming up through marketing or other functions, you had to go out and sell for a couple of years to kind of understand the consumer experience. So I went from a kid in New Jersey who had really never been west of the Mississippi, getting my first sales territory, which was Alaska. You
should have taken the hint.
I was like, wow, they really hate me, or there's something magic happening here. So I remember, so this is back in like 1986, and I was informed on a Thursday that I had to be in my territory on a Tuesday, not knowing the territory. I was thinking, which part of Manhattan am I going to? And I end up on a Tuesday in Alaska. Spent a couple of years there, and the winters, Jay, you're up in Canada, so you can relate. The winters are very long. They were longer back then. The second winter, I said, I got to do something more productive. Took a Japanese kind of cultural language class just on a whim. Had no burning interest in it. And as the story goes, became very obsessed with it. Kodak sent me back for MBA and a language component, which is Japanese. Then sent me to Japan as a product manager based in Tokyo, but handling Asia Pacific region. Did that for about 4.5 years. And it led to this interest in helping foreign companies navigate in Japan, which led to broader Asia Pacific, which led to other parts of the world. I won't take you through the whole middle section.
Yada, yada.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jay.
Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. Yada, yada, yada. 1986, 2006. went over to Zurich, Switzerland to help Reynolds, RJ Reynolds, set up kind of an independent entity to manage the natural American spirit business. It's a niche tobacco product you may be familiar with. So help set that up in Switzerland to do natural American spirit outside of the U.S. So everything outside the U.S., including Canada, was part of the international market. Yada, 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 2006, 2015, that business that I was running got acquired by Japan Tobacco. Like, ironically, coincidentally, here's my third tour back to living in Japan to manage the integration of the two entities. So spent a couple of years there, 2016, 2017, came back to America, pretty much retired. I said early, but whatever. I didn't even have time for a midlife crisis because I'm not going to take you. It's a whole rabbit hole. It's really, I find it really interesting story, but I'm not going to share it here. It's too long. Suffice to say, a gentleman from Israel reached out to me. I was living in California, in San Francisco at the time, who had a really cool technology, an inhalation device that was targeted for the pharmaceutical industry. And you could inhale APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients, in an aqueous solution, so a water-based solution that was nanotized. So absorbed into the deep lung quickly in mass, and then distributed into the bloodstream. When in the process of developing that device, they played around with various APIs, but then someone told them you should try nicotine for a variety of reasons, and also some cannabinoids. And through this process of their experimentation, they discovered that this device would have really interesting applications for both nicotine inhalation in a reduced harm format, as well as cannabis for much more rapid absorption, much higher bioavailability, advantageous for the manufacturer of cannabis because it required a fraction of the biomass to create the desired result. So I joined that entity as an advisor and as a board member in 2018. And it gave me this really broad view to the cannabis industry back in that day, which was obviously, early days, relatively speaking. Got exposure to a lot of different brands, a lot of different companies, various investors. And so started to build a real interest in the space and make some connections. You guys are familiar. I mean, there was and is a lot of IP generated within the cannabis space in Israel. Had the chance to sit with lots of people that I should have been more impressed with, but I just didn't know at the time. Several different lunches and dinners with Dr. Meshulam, and a whole range of characters. Attended the medical cannabis conference there 3 different years. And it was just a wild indoctrination, immersion. So that's when I was saying earlier, to kind of be in the seat where I am now, because we were studying what Charlotte's Web was doing. Were there applications for our device within the CBD space? And so here I am, and it's been such a fascinating ride.
That's a circuitous route.
Yeah.
I don't know if it could be any more so, right? How we end up in certain spaces. But yeah, it's been such a fun ride. I keep saying, I mean, I'm old, but not that old. I think I'm in, right? But to still be, I use these words to still have an opportunity to have some relevance and to feel like you're contributing to something, I think is such a blessing. So I feel deep gratitude that I can, not only with this company, but just in general, to be managing something at this stage in something so exciting in a challenging space.
So, I mean, this question's sort of just occurring to me now, Bill, but can you draw any parallels from, in the early 90s, helping US companies navigate the Japanese market to how complex and convoluted often the cannabis industry is, even today in 2025? Like, are there things you've learned about navigating environments like this that are helping you now?
That is such an awesome question, Jeremy. No one's ever asked me that. I never even thought about it.
You're so good, Jeremy.
Yeah, Jeremy, it's an awesome question.
I appreciate it.
I think the principles are there's parallel principles.
Mm-hmm.
Japan, for foreign companies, especially back in the late 80s, early 90s, was so mysterious.
Right.
The culture is just so fundamentally the general culture, but then the business culture, consumer requirements, everything dramatically different. So it was such a compelling challenge to try and help them. And then what you find is, because I help, I've lost count, but more than 50 and probably less than 100 different companies do a market entry or a market expansion or some type of market analysis, specifically in Japan, and then more than that in other countries. What I find is generally the principles don't change. It's the application of the principles that you have to adapt and adopt depending on what the given challenge is. If I was to draw a parallel to what we face today in the cannabis industry in 2025, I believe, it's just my POV, and I think there'd be different opinions on this. I think the principles are defined. It's how we choose to bring them to life. Mm-hmm. What do I mean by that more specifically? I think part of Charlotte's Web's struggle when I was coming into the seat, because it continues to be in some, I'd be insincere to say that it's not in some state of distress because of a variety of reasons. Some of them are outside of our control. The regulatory environment, what we always say in our place in the office is we can influence to the best of our ability the regulatory environment. We can't control it. Right. But there's a whole bunch of things that we can control. And I think some of those were being neglected when I arrived. And so that's where we did the massive triage and said, what are the controllables? What are the non-controllables? Of the non-controllables, which ones can we influence? And which ones do we just have to put aside and hope the universe eventually aligns for us? And that was a big exercise. That was about, as they say, your first 90 days. First 90 days will dictate what happens the remaining however 100 days, 1,000 days you stay. I think the 90 days are the really, really critical thing. And so we did really intensive triage in those 90. And that's kind of set the pace for the changes we made and what we're doing today.
And it's not, you're not operating in a vacuum. There are other players in the space. There is a market that will dictate if they want your products or not. And the regulatory environment, while not in your control, is also not stable necessarily, right? It's not only is it not in your control, you may be able to influence it, but your influence may wax and wane and may change over time. And I think that's actually what we talk about a lot, is how it affects you at Charlotte's Web, how it affects the sort of regulated cannabis industry by market in each state, how it represents the hemp-derived THC market. Like, none of those people can control any of those things, but you still have to chart a path. And I'm not asking you about sort of looking ahead, but like charting a path with that as a realization is challenging and different maybe than accessing a Japanese market from an international company. Like it's relatively stable, right? And the rules of the road are there. In cannabis, it's just not. And you can learn the language of cannabis or hemp or CBD, but the language can sometimes change dramatically.
Again, awesome point, Jay, and spot on. What I say, but I've got like selective amnesia. I think everything I walk into, I'm like, this is the most challenging thing I've ever done. If anyone was like keeping a record of it, they'd be like, oh, okay, this is biggest challenge ever, number 7. But I say it often. This is by far the most challenging thing that I've faced for all the reasons you just said, Jay. At least, and you said it perfectly, there's a lot of ambiguity in foreign markets. Japan may be one of the most ambiguous because of massive, language differences and culture differences. But there are rules. There is definition to it. It doesn't change. It's been that way for multi-millennia. This, we've got a legal team, and one of the gentlemen on the legal team is responsible for tracking state regulatory changes or federal, what's bubbling. And this poor guy, because he sends out a note, once a week, I'm like, I hate to open these things. It's never glorious. It's never like, oh, now we've got clarity. State XYZ is opening up to CBD full spectrum in ways they've never have in the past. Like that doesn't happen. It only gets more ambiguous, more restrictive, more challenging. So trying to get your footing on a foundation of Jello is not ideal. So what do you do, right? Like, so you're probably like, okay, Bill, so what you're telling me, the controllables, what are those controllables? For us, one of the discoveries for me through this triage process when I came on board was that access was fundamental to what we were trying to solve for. We want to ensure that people have access to the medicines and health solutions that we provide. Well, some of that's derived through the work that you can do to contribute to influence, whether that's vis-a-vis lobbying or whatever, state, federal, et cetera. But also, I was looking at it through the lens of the consumer experience, because that also impacts access. And I didn't love, to put it gently, the consumer experience that we had in place. A big chunk of our business is derived from direct to consumer. We had a super clunky platform, giant cart abandonment rates because it just was slow and awkward and hard to navigate, and just a whole bunch of reasons why that wasn't great. So little bit in the weeds here, no pun intended, like without taking you too far down the path, but switching from a Magento platform to a Shopify platform and getting a really nice consumer experience on D2C has had a real fundamental impact on our ability to engage with consumers. Ultimately, your overarching objective as an enterprise, let alone a public enterprise, is you have to create value for your shareholders and be profitable. But that was like an afterthought. Let's just create an experience where people don't hate it. So that was a lot of work in the last few years, is to create a very attractive D2C experience. One other element of that, and I'll pause because I think I cut you off, Jeremy, was our overarching branding. So there's real equity in the Charlotte's Web brand and marks. But when you looked at it, I had a shelf put together in my office, and my first day, and I said, let's bring. Can you just put all our stuff up there, right? Like I just want to see what we look like. And nice gentleman that we work with brought it all in, and literally, I'm not embellishing this story. I said, no, I just want to see our stuff, and then we can look at competitive set. And he goes, that is all our stuff. I'm like, wow, we show up a lot of different ways to maybe the same people, maybe different people. We have a tiny budget with which to market these things and to create awareness, let alone educated awareness. We're treating this like we're a family of brands. We're not Procter & Gamble or Unilever or whomever. We're tiny. So we need to be a branded family. We need to create synergies that if someone sees this set of products, they can relate it to this set of products and leverage the goodwill associated with Charlotte's Web across a broader portfolio. So we went through this entirely new brand architecture exercise that led to a brand refresh and a whole different way of showing up and going to market. So that's another element of what we've changed. You may be saying, well, it looks the same to me. It filters in because we don't want to write off a lot of packaging. So you'll see that pretty much by the end of this year, a whole different look, feel, sense, and it'll be a cohesive Charlotte's Web experience. So that was another element to trying to make access is also in the way a brand is communicated and understood. Was another element. And the third one, I'm just giving the big buckets, was our channel strategy. So when I arrived, we were pretty much bifurcated into D2C, which was purely our website, or brick and mortar. It was like one or the other. Even at my advanced age, I don't shop that way. I don't know anyone who does. We shop across an omnichannel continuum. So we redesigned our entire channel platform to be omnichannel first, meaning that we want to show up if we've got our topicals in Walmart in brick and mortar locations, but then how are we showing up on Walmart.com? And you could take that across every major retailer that we participate in addition to digital retailers like Thrive that don't have brick and mortar, but are in a marketplace, right? So what's our strategy for them? Or for Chewy on the pet side, which we've got a nice pet line, as well as we had no presence in a very long time on digital platforms like Amazon, TikTok Shop, Faire, et cetera. We now have a team against that, a strategy against that. We're selling on those platforms. And then on our D2C site, which I was telling you before, we had to wildly enhance where it was to where it is today. So we look at the business now, to visualize it on a matrix, and across the horizontal axis are these omni-channel pillars that I was referring to, everything from brick and mortar, to our website and the three different things in between, retail.com, digital retail, marketplace, Amazon, et cetera. So you got that across your horizontal axis, and then the vertical axis is the different product tiers that we've identified that we will participate in. And then imagine now you've got the matrix. There's a bucket for each one of those where they intersect. There's a strategy defined for each one of those and how we're going to approach it. So much more clarity, a lot more prioritization has been the way forward for us.
You just made Jeremy so happy because he graduated from business.
I looked a lot of axes. Yeah.
There's no problem, right, that a matrix can't solve.
Right. It's always a box. That's always
a box.
And then the strategy behind the box. It's perfect.
Right.
That's very business schooly.
We're going to take that clip and Jeremy's going to resubmit it to a business school thesis right there.
That's right. Yeah. Luckily, I already graduated, so
Yeah.
there's no more thesis, Jay. But
Damn,
yeah,
this is such a good one to dive into.
it really is. Yeah.
I mean, I want to honor your time, but also thank you for it, because I think we could talk about this and the whole thing. I guess one thing that I do want to talk about is one of the uncontrollables, and that is, I mean, just hemp in general in the U.S. Probably for 150 years was not on the front burner, and now is on the front burner. Depending on who you talk to, depending on which you're talking, state or federal, even on the federal level, there's conversation of like punt it for a year. And what they're really talking about is actually not your part of the hemp world, but the THC derived from hemp world. But like, how do you think about what's happening there? I know it's one of the uncontrollables, but I assume there's part of it that you are trying to influence. Like in that email you get from your lawyer once a week, like I know you're reading it with dread, but any insight that sort of how you look at it versus how others might look at it?
Yeah. So, gosh, it gives me, your question makes me anxious, right? Then I have to go back. I have to go back to that, right? The uncontrollable side. Like, oh man, I like living in that fantasy world sometimes with the controllables because it feels so satisfying.
There's a matrix.
I got a matrix, like we're working against it, and we're just focused on that. And then you're bringing me back to the reality of what we face every day. So again, obviously, really good, profound question. Let me talk. I'm gonna come back to it, but let me just share with you mine down a little bit, because where would we be without going back to the matrix for a second? On that vertical axis, we talked about the products. We split our hemp-derived CBD business into 3 buckets. So 3 different categories of that, which each have their own strategy that go across the horizontal to have a box associated with it. So the 3 different buckets for us are full spectrum. At the top, that's our heritage. That's what the company was founded on. That's the medicine that's treating minimum tens of thousands of people, probably much larger across the country. The one under the most duress with, in some cases, regulatory ambiguity at the federal level and regulatory restriction at state level. So there's the full spectrum. Come back to that. In the middle is our kind of little bit of miscellaneous, but minor cannabinoids, isolates, topicals that can go as broad as what I was referring to earlier, presence in a Walmart, a Whole Foods, and other locations, because it has a different regulatory framework associated with it. And then our most recent product launch, known as Brightside, which is a D9 portfolio targeted to specific need states. So very need state driven, not seeking to do kind of where I believe the category is today with D9 is like how much THC can you squeeze into a medium to be absorbed into the body, whether it's a gummy, a liquid, or whatever. I hear, from different people in the industry that people want to understand how much THC per dollar they can acquire. I'm like, that just doesn't seem like what this industry is, certainly what it was founded on and what it should be about. So we're not playing there, but we are participating in the Delta 9 space to address specific needs. So those are the 3 categories of hemp-derived products. And then we've got a pet line, don't have to go into that unless you want to, as well as our botanical line, which right now is primarily exclusively adaptogen. So it's mushrooms with some other botanicals included, depending on the need state we're solving for. But that's our portfolio. So back to your question, Jay. Not all of those three categories of hemp are being being treated the same, and different set of challenges for each. I'm very, very concerned about the treatment that the full spectrum products are getting. It is very much, I would argue, baby with the bathwater type of approach, certainly at the state level. They're getting it down, any amount of THC is persona non grata. Like, I've lost the script. I don't know what they're trying to solve for, right? And it's just so frustrating when I wish the regulators and legislators would spend more time to understand what it is we do and what our other people in the category, the good, responsible ones, do to solve for massive health challenges that people have that can't be served with conventional pharma products. Like, the story is so documented. You go back to Charlotte, and then again, the number of people, I don't want to quote numbers, so I don't want to sound hyperbolic, and I don't know with precision, but it's a lot. It's a lot of folks that depend on these products, from veterans to people with various orphan diseases that create uncontrollable seizures, on and on and on. Why this wildly restrictive posture for something that has demonstrated no ill side effects? I'm lost, and it's frustrating. So we're fighting that fight, and we're hedging to a degree, if you will, like with our participation with DeFloria. Are you guys familiar with DeFloria?
No.
Okay, so DeFloria, this is really, really cool. The Stanley brothers, who created Charlotte's Web, two of them, Jared and Joel, have a company called DeFloria. DeFloria is a collaboration between Ajna Biosciences, which is a plant development company, plant medicine development company, that was founded by Joel Stanley, and it's going down different pathways with cannabis as well as psilocybin, and creating some really, really revolutionary, innovative botanical drugs. DeFloria is a collaboration between Ajna Biosciences, bringing their plant wellness botanical drug capabilities, us, because we've got the proprietary plant genetics for Charlotte's Web, and a division of British American Tobacco called Better Tomorrow Ventures, which is their venture arm. They infused the initial capital and have done some subsequent rounds of investment. So the three entities came together to create DeFloria, which is going down the FDA IND pathway, investigative new drug pathway, to develop what would be, I think, it would be the first ingestible systemic botanical drug ever created. So it is taking properties from our original formula, and it's to treat the irritability associated with autism spectrum disorder. We've made it through phase 1 clinical trials and preparing for phase 2 clinical trials. We provide the Q&A in the manufacturing of the drug as well as the manufacturing of the drug as it's going through the trials. And then we will be the manufacturer of the drug once it gains approval. So as full spectrum, faces its challenges, we're also hopeful that we'll have an FDA approved drug that can address these need states that seem to be neglected.
Yeah. Jeremy, I'm going to wrap it up. I apologize to you, Bill, because we could do this literally all day. But I know from our analytics that once we go past like the 35-minute mark, people start dropping off. So I apologize for that, but we will be continued, not to be ended. But I appreciate the time, the energy, the effort, and sharing your story.
Yeah.
Oh, anytime, guys. I'm sorry if I rambled.
No,
it's all good. Yeah.
It's totally great. I appreciate it. I mean, anytime we get Eastman Kodak and Charlotte's Web in a story, that's pretty good. We got Alaska, Japan. We got a whole bunch of stuff.
The box.
You got the box.
The whole thing. The Matrix is like, it's great. Bill and Jeremy, thanks for joining us here today. We'll be back again tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you.